Welcome back, Movie Maniacs. These questions went so damn long that I am fortunately going to have to put it into two parts. So here is part 2 of this never-ending, epic, ridiculous question-a-thon. So let's just dive right back into this shit, shall we? Let's do it. Eduardo Corrochio asks, do you have any cinema hosts from your youth that you admire or want to emulate? I don't actually. For some reason, I don't know if we just didn't have it in my area in Erie, Pennsylvania. But yeah, there was no horror hosts at night that were specifically on cable access that I knew of as a kid. Growing up, I guess the only one I was aware of at the time was Joe Bob Briggs with his shows at night. But I didn't really... I don't know. I guess I was kind of like a snobby little shit or something in the past, or when I was a kid, because I almost viewed the host as shut up and get on with it, I want to see the movie kind of thing. I didn't appreciate it. I was an asshole, I'll admit it. But yeah, nothing that really stuck with me and made me want to kind of aspire to be that. I mean, I love Elvira. She's probably the most famous one. She's smoking hot, not only that, but she's got an amazing personality, a great sense of humor, and just a great personality in general. But yeah, I don't really have a horror host. I know there was a lot of friends on Facebook that I've met through the channel and just in life. They mentioned growing up in Cleveland they had a lot of horror hosts, but I never got caught up in that. Never really. I guess it was more of a personal journey of my own. I was finding out these movies for myself. I wasn't kind of watching it through a host and seeing what he had to serve, or he or she had to serve up. But yeah. No, nothing. I got no personal experiences on that, so sorry. Whew! It's getting pretty long here. Fire Ninja 76543 asks, what are some of your favorite pre-1960s horror movies? Yeah, I got a bunch of them. I guess just to really just hit it across the board is the Universal horror monster movies. With Dracula, Frankenstein, The Mummy, The Invisible Man, which I only started recently, maybe the last 5 years, watched those. My favorite, Creature from the Black Lagoon. That one's my favorite of the Universal horror monsters. The Wolfman. Yeah, just all those ones, top-notch, great stuff, great atmosphere. Like all the original films and there's many sequels. Love them all. The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, 1920 film. I saw that for the first time in college, where a lot of these films, I guess films in general, came to my attention from college. Like I went to college for graphic design, but I took a lot of film classes, history and film, just black and white photography, film in general. Yeah, and they kind of sparked my interest in movies even more. The original Invasion of the Body Snatchers, great sci-fi horror film with a lot of tension, atmosphere, paranoia. Nosferatu, in 1922, yeah, that one, great creepy film, great cast. There's just a lot of ones that we could play off of and talk about, but yeah, those are just some of my few that I like. I love classic horror. Yeah, just that time period before this pre-1960s really had a lot of great gems in there and a lot of ahead of their time kind of flicks that kind of molded what was to come in the genre. So, yep, love the oldies and goodies. So many in the collection that's why I'm looking over that way. I'm looking at the collection, but yep, great stuff out there, and those are just a few of the ones I love. Oh God, I'm parched. Goes down smooth. Not really. Alright, this next question by Eduardo Corrochio again is an interesting one. Let's see it. Here is, have you considered making a series of new videos that temporarily veer from your usual format? Like a handful of videos that are a parody award show, as an example. Yeah, I mean, I'm always up for it. I mean, like I mentioned in other questions, I kind of started in comedy when I was doing videos, from when I was in maybe 7th grade, I think, is when I first started filming stuff, and just doing comedy stuff. But I think after high school, I mean, I dabbled a little bit in comedy after in college and stuff like that, but I kind of veered more towards horror and serious stuff like that. And then just, I guess, kind of what the climate is on YouTube is that everyone's I was going to say effing comedian. I'm trying to keep it somewhat tame. Everyone's a goddamn comedian on YouTube, and I mean, not to take away from any of the other YouTubers out there, but it's almost like they have to be above and beyond extreme in their personalities and entertainment just to get people to watch their stuff. Like, I didn't want to go into that avenue because I guess just because so many people do it, and I don't want to be a copycat kind of guy, just like, hey, this is blah, blah, blah. Just act like that and do spoofs and kind of spice things up that way. I just wanted to be genuine and kind of honest with my approach to things. But I mean, yeah, I'm just specifically the award shows and stuff like that. I mean, yeah, it's great stuff, and I'll probably maybe eventually get into that. Just different avenues to take, but I just really like the format I do now because it just is. It's kind of original nowadays. I do love some of the other stuff that people do. I was big into the Nostalgia Critic back in the day, and I still watch the Cinema Snob reviews because I like his stuff. I mean, he likes the movies he's reviewing, but he acts like he doesn't, kind of thing. But I just like to be upfront and honest with it because my main goal is to just show movies that people might be interested in, to give them kind of a view of it, flavor of my opinion on it, and kind of just introduce them to it. So that's kind of what my mission was always here at the Lucid Nightmare, before it was even a YouTube channel as a blog, was just to show movies that people haven't seen before. But yeah, I'm always up for anything. This channel, I've done crazy stuff like that in the past, as you can probably see way back in my early days of YouTube. There's a few videos out there. But yeah, always up for anything. I never say no to anything. So, yep. All right, we got another interesting question here. It is from One Up Level Up. What made you decide on covering classic movies as opposed to newer ones? I guess that's just my personal preference on what I like. I mentioned before that some of the trends I don't really into in modern horrors, and I just love the kind of I don't know how to word it. I just love, especially love 80s. I grew up in the 80s, but I just love that atmosphere and tone that the 80s movies have. Love 70s with their dramatic kind of turns and serious tone on movies. 60s, wild and crazy stuff. 50s, more simplified kind of horror stories. Yeah, I mean, I just love anything. I guess there's still some of the 90s that I really do enjoy, and even some of the 2000s and present time. But I'm just more pulled towards classic films, just kind of that history and pastime stuff. Yeah, it's just my personal preference on what I'm more engaged in. I think that they just had more class back then. Even 80s movies, 80s slasher movies had a sense of class to them where they had a story, a structure, and respect for the genre, even when they were going off the rails and doing crazy shit. It's just, they're more interesting, I guess is the best way to describe it. There's more interesting aspects to movies in the past than there are to the modern times. Even though, like, the modern times, they kind of get a trend and hook onto it and then just beat it to death. But they did that in the 80s, but they did it more with surprising twists, flair, and just anything in the past. They did it with more heart. It wasn't kind of corporate driven and to make money. Unless it was, but it didn't wear it on its sleeve where you noticed it. And maybe it's just I'm more cynical. Modern cinema, I just view it differently than I would in the past. But yeah, I guess that's why I focus more on that. And it's just kind of funner for myself personally to delve into and kind of dissect these films. It's just more, I guess, rewarding. So that's kind of why I veer more towards the classic movies and not modern. But yeah, I hope that kind of explains it. Get a little bit of some liquid courage. All right, next question. Frank Schneider says, why didn't you do reviews on John Woo's masterpieces, Hardboiled and The Killer? Well, Frank, that's none of your damn business. But seriously, I was actually going to be doing a review on The Killer sometime, it was like last year, and just totally forgot and never got around to it. So I apologize for that. I know Hardboiled and The Killer are two great John Woo masterpieces, and yeah, I'm gonna have to revisit at least The Killer and put a review up for it. But Hardboiled, I can't even remember the last time I watched it, but yeah, I'll have to check it out and put up a review for that one also. Thank you for the recommendations, and yeah, stay tuned. Kyle the Horror Man asks, what is your top 5 scariest movies you have ever seen? And Kyle, the Horror Man, I've mentioned earlier in the questions that, yeah, the scary movies, I don't really get frightened, so I don't really know what the scariest movies I've seen have been. I know that The Grudge, The Ring, or Ringu, if you want to call it that one, the original Japanese one, One Missed Call, those kind of Japanese horror, they really creep me out, so I guess personally that would be my scariest horror movies. But yeah, I don't really know how to peg it because I don't get frightened or scared or freaked out by horror movies. I kind of just enjoy them, and I guess I'm just a sick and twisted mother. Canal Kennigan asks, what are your 5 favorite film genres outside of horror, sci-fi, and fantasy? Well, I would have to say that the genres that I love outside of those 3 are action, spaghetti westerns, comedy, I guess animated films is its own little separate genre of films, and definitely martial arts, like kung fu fighting films. I love them all, love every single genre out there pretty much. I don't think there's one genre that I kind of stay away from. I guess I still love a little bit of romantic ones. But yeah, I love them all, especially martial arts, kung fu, Jackie Chan films. I'm a huge Jackie Chan fan, and spaghetti westerns, just love the Italians' stab at the western genre. Really some great ones out there. Well, I love that Once Upon a Time in the West. Was that The Great Silence is a really, really amazing atmospheric spaghetti western. But yep, love all kinds of genres, but those are my, I guess, top 5 outside of the 3 horror, fantasy, and sci-fi. Trash Pondo Pawns asks, what trend do you most appreciate, and what is your least favorite trend? Make it sweet and simple. I absolutely hate remakes. Maybe a few here and there are actually worth your time, but there's a good majority that are complete and absolute shit that don't do anything new with the story, try to rehash it, and just fall and fail on every and all single levels. But what I love, I guess the trend that I love, but they've done it to death, is the trend of zombie films. I guess it kind of started around Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead remake, which is actually a good remake in my opinion, but kind of skyrocketed from there into The Walking Dead, even though I don't really care for that show, but I don't really like shows in general. But yeah, love the zombie trend that kicked off way back then and is still kind of kicking around new stuff now, but zombies, yep, remakes, not so much. Fa Forn asks, what kind of music are you into? Well, Fa, that's none of your business. But really, I pretty much just like movies. I love every kind of genre out there. So every type of music. I think the only one that I was kind of hesitant and didn't want anything to do with was country music. But my girlfriend enjoys it, so I've learned to love a little bit of the elements of country songs. But yeah, I've listened to everything: electronic music, hardcore, metal, rock, rap, hip hop, classical, alternative stuff, just anything pretty much under the sun. I don't really don't really restrict anything in my playlists. I love 80s music, so 80s pop is always a good pick-me-up. Of course, movie soundtracks. So I'm pretty much listening to absolutely anything. I don't know if I have any. I'm not obsessed with music as I am with movies. I don't really own a lot of CDs or albums or anything. Yeah, growing up in high school, I mean, I would just save up my money for like hip hop tapes and CDs and stuff like that, and that was pretty much the only thing I collected back in the day, music-wise. But yep, love it all. Love absolutely everything. Eduardo Carocchio comes back with another great question. He's asking, is there a musical score from a movie that blew you away, that almost deserves a video praising it? There is, of course, a ton of musical scores out there that I absolutely love. And I'm just going to whittle it down to a few because I could talk on and on about different scores. But the ones that stand out to me are Jay Chataway's score to The Maniac. That score is amazing. It's got so many ups and downs, brooding moments, and just really haunting, ethereal, kind of childlike melodies and stuff like that. It's really cool, a great companion piece to Joe Spinell's crazy acting. So it's just a really good score overall and really completes the film as a masterpiece. But also, John Harrison's Day of the Dead. For some reason, that one always just stuck in my brain. It really got catchy tunes, just like Jay Chataway's. It's got ups and downs, different qualities to it. It's just a really cool film, really gets you in the mood for the movie, and has a great undertone of all the kind of dark elements that are in the film. Also, just like Goblin in general, just anything they've done in the Italian craze with Suspiria, any of their work with Argento. But I also love their work on Dawn of the Dead, on George Romero's Dawn of the Dead. Their contributions to the score are really great. They just have that cool electronic rock combination that really makes their movies that they have really, really great additions to the films. Just great stuff. And then Lucio Fulci collaborated with Fabio Frizzi. He does a lot of great haunting scores to his films, so I like his stuff. And I guess outside of the horror genre, I was a huge fan, I still am a huge fan, of Howard Shore, the guy who composed the music for the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I love his work, all the themes and compositions he made for that series of films. I actually saw him in concert live in probably 2005, I think it was. It was a real treat. Just a great experience. So yep, that's just a few of some of the musical scores that I love and some of the composers and films they're associated with. Great stuff. Next up is John Caravitas. I hope I said that right. He asked, ever thought of doing your own horror movie? Well, not only have I thought about it, John, I've actually done it. My film was a zombie horror film, and it was entitled Among the Fallen, and let me see if I can find it up here. And it is right here, Among the Fallen. Woo! But yeah, it was fun to direct. It was kind of a surreal kind of project where I was messing with like kind of unorthodox narrative structures, and it's more of kind of like a poem where and a metaphorical experience with surreal lighting, interesting cinematography, not a lot of dialogue. I star in the movie, and kind of follows me as a writer going to a secluded cabin to get away from everything after the passing of his wife and unborn child in a car accident. And he's kind of dealing with demons and inner demons also, but they physically manifest themselves in the woods surrounding the cabin, and he has to kind of fight for survival. Really weird concept, kind of artsy-fartsy, if you will, but it was really a fun experience to just kind of get my friends and I together, go out to the cottage, and just film this bloody fun adventure kind of horror flick. But yep, I actually did film one. I was going to do another one, but kind of that one fell through. I filmed a bunch of stuff. It was a black and white vampire film set in kind of a post-apocalyptic winter landscape, and it had a kind of characteristics of I Am Legend with, I don't even know, like 30 Days of Night, I guess, but it's a very classy kind of homage to like early cinema, black and white kind of films. Really atmospheric. But yep, those are the kind of projects I was working on. I was also doing different fake trailers for movies that I always, it was a Killer Santa flick. And I always wanted to do it into a live action or a full feature film, but never got around to it just because I had so much crap on my plate with work and home and all that kind of stuff. But yes, I did do a film, a horror film of my own. It's Among the Fallen. You can actually check it out on the channel. Frank Snyder asks, where can I buy large quantities of Oompa Loompas? My friend, Oompa Loompas and the buying of Oompa Loompas is illegal. That's called slavery. And I'm going to have to report you to the authorities. P.S. Private message me. I know a guy. Fire Ninja 76543 asks, if you were to make a horror film with a budget of $500,000, what would it be about? Well, that's a tricky one. If I had $500,000, I guess, I mean, I really love zombie films, so I would probably make another zombie film, or I would continue the black and white vampire film that I started but never finished. That one was called, what the hell was that one called? Something about the damned, I can't remember. It's been a while, it's been a long time since I even thought about that film. But yeah, I would do that, or I always wanted to make a strange vampire film about a team of vampires that are hunting in like Louisiana swamps or something like that, and it was going to be set in the 70s with a 70s soundtrack. I always thought it would be an interesting concept, but that was something I came up with a long time ago. I mean, I have a lot of ideas, and once I get into the creative process of doing content like that, they just kind of spring forth, and it's almost like second nature. I could make a, if I was a filmmaker, I could probably make movies back to back to back to back forever and never run out of steam or ideas. But I guess that's just a few of the things that I might do with $500,000. Give me the money. Show me the money! Steve Morrow asks, what is one film others love but you can't stand? I've thought about this for a long, long time, and I cannot for the life of me come up with one answer for this question. I don't know. Is there any other movies out there that people love and I just don't get? I guess I just can't think because I really don't give a shit what other people's opinions are on movies. And if it's a crappy movie, I kind of just forget about it and move on. I guess the closest I can think of, but it's a movie that's pretty much splits everyone apart anyways, is the Star Wars Last Jedi. I can't stand that movie. I think it's total shit, but there are people that absolutely love it. I don't know if they're doing it just to be contrary to what people, the majority seems to think, but that's the only thing I can think of at the moment. Yeah, and as of older movies or classic movies or just genre kind of horror movies that people absolutely love that I don't get, I don't know. I seem to appreciate almost everything out there. Even ones that are just not so good, I still find some kind of merit in them. But yeah, that's the best answer I can give you, because I just don't really think about films I don't really like. Trash Pondo Pawns asks, what would your must-have movies be if you were stranded somewhere and presumably had a solar-powered DVD VHS combo? It's a strange one because I would actually, the films I would want are, they kind of go from horror to different genres. So, the one that I always thought that I need to have in my collection if I was ever stranded somewhere, it would be my James Bond. I guess I'll go with the James Bond Blu-ray collection that has all 20-some movies. Because I just love the James Bond franchise. I think every movie is so unique, and all the actors that play James Bond have their own traits that are good. And there's so many different characters and cast members that would be a good collection to have where it can mix things up. I would probably just have a few Jackie Chan films because I just need to have that. Horror-wise, I would have the Evil Dead franchise. I would have George Romero's Night of the Living Dead trilogy. I gotta have some Dario Argento, some Lucio Fulci. I don't know, there's just so many. It's hard to, I gotta have a slasher in there, a slasher flick, so maybe a Halloween or a Friday the 13th, but Yeah, that's a damn good question, and it's hard to narrow it down because it would be hard even if you just were focusing on one genre, but I'm focusing on the across the board every genre, so it's kind of hard to narrow it down to just a few, a handful to have in a deserted island or desert island or whatever the heck, you know, to be. But yeah, that's what I came up with. Just those few, and hopefully that tides me over. I just don't know. Frank Snyder asks, why are To Live and Die in LA, Doberman, and Year of the Dragon among the greatest action movies of all time, and when will you finally review them? My goodness, Frank. I've seen A Year of the Dragon. Love it. It's a great flick. To Live and Die in LA, I don't know if I've seen that one all the way through. I cannot remember, but when I watched it, it was a long, long time ago. And Doberman, I absolutely love that flick. I have it on an import DVD. I actually reviewed it long, long time ago on the blog, so I have a written review of that one, just not a video review. But yeah, I've seen I've seen the movies. I own all of them. Just haven't reviewed them officially on video format. But maybe I will remedy that one and get one up for you. It's been a long time since I've seen Doberman, but I love the cast. Great kind of atmosphere to it, heist film. Yeah, I will get working on that, Frank. Do not beat me up. Casey sends a nice, interesting question here. Have you ever seen one of your old reviews and changed your mind about the film's merits? That's actually a really good question. Because I am a stubborn piece of crap, I do not change my opinion on any of my old reviews. But seriously, yeah, I'm pretty much, in all my reviews, I'm very honest, pretty much positive across the board on how I feel about them, and I don't think any of them have diminished in any way of my fondness of them. They all have a certain quality that I love, and yeah, that's pretty much why I choose them to be reviewed on the channels, because I have an affinity for them, I love them, and I don't think that's ever going to change. Some of the movies that I've loved when I was in high school and stuff like that, I still appreciate and love to this day. So I don't think my taste has changed at all in the 20-some years in that span. My love of film just kind of expands outward, and I just collect more and more movies that I actually really love and enjoy. Yeah. So I mean, every single movie I've reviewed on the channel or in the past on my blog or whatever, I absolutely love them, and I stand by them wholeheartedly. So yep, I hope that answers your question. All right, we got two people asking a similar question, so I'm going to combine them both. Fire Ninja 76543 asks, what horror movies would you recommend if a friend who had not seen any horror asked you for some recommendations? And ABC also asks, what 3 horror movies would you use to introduce someone to the genre? So I'm just going to combine them all and just make it into the 3 that I would recommend to somebody new to the genre. I would have to say that I would introduce them to the Evil Dead trilogy, because it's a pretty easy explanation on that. The Evil Dead, the first one, is a straight-up low-budget horror film made by college students trying to get their name out there in the world. And then the sequel, Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn, that one is a horror-comedy hybrid that has a lot of slapstick moments, weird stuff, and it kind of is a good combination of what the horror genre has to offer. And then rounding it off with Army of Darkness, which is an adventure horror film with a lot of comedy, a lot of fun, and a little bit of fantasy thrown in. But I think those 3 films are a good introduction to kind of a cult classic kind of sensibility that starts off serious horror, mixes comedy and horror, and then a comedy horror adventure film. So it's kind of a good introduction of all the weird and wacky stuff that you're going to be running across in the genre, and hopefully, like it did me, that it will kind of grow your love and appreciation for just these kind of films. So I guess it's kind of mirroring how I was kind of opened up into the genre, because I kind of got my feet wet with, well, mine was Evil Dead 2 first, then I believe it might have been Army of Darkness, and then I hunted down a VHS copy of The Evil Dead, And I was like, there's a first movie? I was like, holy shit. Even though it says part 2 in Evil Dead, Dead by Dawn, I couldn't believe that there was like more before what happened in Evil Dead 2. But yeah, I guess that would be my best recommendation to get people into the genre. Because they're either going to love it or absolutely hate all the weirdness that happens in there. So it's kind of a good gauge of if you're into it or if you're not. But I hope that recommendation helps. Frank Snyder, aka the Smartass, asks, which leading female role in a Shakespeare-based movie should Charles Bronson absolutely play? Yeah, I read that correctly. I have no goddamn clue. Faforn asks, what kind of activities are you into outside of watching movies? Well, that's an interesting question. I guess at the moment it's kind of just me watching movies, and everything outside of that is spending time with family, friends, and working. I got a full-time job at the post office delivering mail, so that takes up a huge chunk of my time. And yep, just having a girlfriend move in recently with her 3 kids. So with her 3 and my daughter, have a full house, got a lot of stuff going on, doing things together, and then family lives in town, friends live in town, so pretty much, yeah, at the moment it's just work and spending time with family and friends. But in the past, I'm known to do some writing. I was writing a fantasy novel years ago, collaborating, big worlds and cultures and all this different stuff. So that always took up a big chunk of my time. I don't really get into sports anymore. Back in the day, I was into soccer. Played that most of my early years. What else? Video games are always a must. My daughter is like a big fan of Nintendo now, so we are like just non-stop games. Every game on the Switch. I got an Xbox One, so I play a lot of different open world games. Big into GTA, things like that, Red Dead Redemption. But yeah, I don't do too much reading anymore, but I used to read books. I don't know. I guess that's it. I sound boring as hell. But yeah, I guess that's it. There's probably other stuff, but I can't think at the moment. But hopefully that answers your question. Shut up, cat. Oh, and I have cats. Trash Pondo Pawns asks, what was the signature horror film you saw which made you realize that you were a true horror buff? Well, I don't think I'm a true horror buff, but I try to know as much as I can about the genre. But I would say what hooked me into the genre and what made me want to explore every nook and cranny of the genres was in college watching Lucio Fulci's Zombie. I think we were in the dorms or the apartment at the time, but no, it was in the dorms. It was probably like first year of college, and we were watching Zombie, and I was just like, wow, this Italian horror 80s horror is pretty raunchy and crazy. So I kind of delved in from there, watched City of the Living Dead, The Beyond. It just skyrocketed from there, or fell into depravity. But yeah, that's where it started pretty much. And from there, just having film classes in college, started watching just classic black and white films like Last Year in Marion Bad. I had a strange course. I think it was something like Women in Literature or something like that. But they showed a foreign German film, Run Lola Run, which is an amazing film. Tom Tykwer, however you spell it, directed it. But yeah, that kind of just blossomed out to different foreign films. So I just would go to the library and research different films that they had access there, like Casablanca and Citizens Kane, just different known films like that. So that's kind of how my love of just films in general, but it kind of made me want to delve deeper into specifically horror movies and just those kind of flicks. So yeah, it kind of just, everything in college is cultivated into just like a smorgasbord of crazy films across the board in every genre. But kind of where I found my love for horror is right there. So hopefully that kind of explains a little bit about me and kind of my love for horror and where it started. Eduardo Carocchio asks, were you always into horror cinema, and was there one thing or movie that sealed it for you? Like I said in the last question, I think Zombie sealed it for me, Lucio Fulci Zombie. But I think a little bit before that, what made me fall into the genre was the Evil Dead series. Like I said, I saw Evil Dead 2 first, then it was either Army of Darkness and then the original Evil Dead, or those two were swapped. But I kind of hunted those down, and that kind of started my love for it, but I don't think it was completely solidified until college when I started delving into Italian horror. I think Italian horror is where I turned into an exclusive, like, kind of horror buff, where I was really thirsting for stuff that I haven't seen before, what I had access to, and kind of blossomed my love for the genre. So, yeah, I would think that in hindsight, Evil Dead kind of solidified me being in the genre, but Zombie and just anything Lucio Fulci or Dario Argento really made it official, pretty much. Michael Gursky asks, what would you consider the most atmospheric horror of all time? And for me, hands down, that would be Dario Argento's Suspiria. It's a fairy tale fantasy come to life with stark colors, a tremendous score, a great cast of characters, locations that are superb, totally gothic. It's just it's like a fairy tale, a demented Grimm's fairy tale on crack. It really is bathed in atmosphere, bathed in color, really rich in every portion of its production. So Suspiria is hands down probably the most atmospheric movie that I know of, I guess. It's the first one that comes to mind, and when just thinking about it, it's the last one that comes to mind. So I would say Suspiria. And ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the last question. I never thought we would get here. I still have a voice, unbelievably. The last question of the day is from Fire Ninja 76543, and it is, what's your best memory of watching a particular movie, whether horror or not? And this should be a hard question because I've seen so many damn movies, but the first thing that came to mind was a movie that I was watching with my friends down at the cottage, my family's cottage. We were on the porch watching it for some reason, I don't know why. And the movie is Maniac Cop. So if you know about Maniac Cop, directed by William Lustig of Maniac fame, loves Maniac in the titles of his films, by the way. But we were watching it, and the thing is, the movie experience wasn't because of the movie, because that was the first time I ever saw Maniac Cop, and this was in 2006. 2006. First time seeing Maniac Cop, and after watching it that day, I couldn't tell you anything about it, because what happens during the movie is what makes it so memorable. So we're watching the movie, and all of a sudden, somebody sees something out of the corner of the eye. Like, did anyone just see that? No. So we just keep watching, and the music's so damn loud you can't really tell what the hell's going on outside of the movie, but everyone kept seeing something in the corner of their eye, movement, but it wasn't there anymore. It comes to happen is that there was a bat that got loose in the porch somewhere, and it's a screened-in porch, so there's nowhere for it to go, but it just kept whizzing back and forth. So imagine, like, it was like 13 or 14 guys in a porch, contained inside of a porch, running around like idiots, screaming and trying to grab a bat, and then some of us like acting like we're gonna grab the bat or get buckets out or something, and it keeps dive bombing us, and everyone's screaming like little girls and just cracking up. It was the best movie experience, not because of the movie, but because of the antics and shenanigans that happened during the movie. And I don't even remember if we finally got it out or something like that and continued the movie. But at the time, I could not tell you a damn thing about the movie because we were probably just laughing about the whole experience of 13 dudes running around like little scared girls. So that is my favorite movie experience. I know there's a shitload more, but that is the cream of the crop, and one we actually have on film. So I actually have that. I posted it somewhere, maybe Dailymotion, or it might be on the YouTube channel. But yeah, it's out there in the internet world, and it's ridiculous. But yeah, that is it for me. That's everything. We made it to the end of the line. I don't even know how many questions there was. I didn't count them. I just kind of recorded everyone's questions, threw them all together, and hope for the best. So hopefully you learned a little bit about me, and I answered all of your questions to perfection. And you had a good time with this video. Probably breaking it down in 2 parts, so you probably are on the second part right now, but hope you enjoyed it. Hope you had a good time. Hope you learned a lot, and hope you had fun, if I didn't say that already. But guys, I'll see you at the next time. Whatever the hell I have cooking, probably a movie review, because I haven't done one in a few, like in a week or something, or a collection video, I don't know. But I'll see you guys next time, so take care, and get the hell out of my house. Later, guys.